So it seems unnecessary to introduce one of the best known men in the print world, but such is the prerogative and pleasure of the office I hold as president of the IFPDA. I'm David Tunick, and the man, of course, is Jordan Schnitzer. His story, to me, is worth retelling every time that we have this opportunity, and that is he bought his first print at age 14 from his mother's gallery in Portland, Oregon. Then he bought more and more and more, and at this point, he and his family foundation have what we believe to be the largest collection of prints in private hands in the country, and that's some 15,000 of them. With vision and consummate drive, Jordan and his team have organized a range of exhibitions of the stars and, just as important, the not so celebrated printmakers of our time. He lends these exhibitions and relentlessly ensures that they travel coast to coast and from our northernmost border to our southernmost. Education and generosity are not just bywords for him, they are his creed. Jordan also supports individual print organizations and artists just as ambitiously, and that brings us this morning to the awards ceremony of the third annual IFPDA Jordan Schnitzer Prize for Excellence in Printmaking. With that, I turn it over to Jordan, along with the IFPDA's gratitude for all that he and the Jordan Schnitzer Foundation do for us and the entire world of prints year in, year out. Jordan, where are you? Are you here? There you are. Great. Podium is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And the IFPDA does so much for works on paper that we all love. And so we talked about creating an additional event of giving an award to someone who really has been legendary in helping the craft and the work that you've done. I think every time I see your work, it takes me on this journey, the stars, the sea, the sky, and we've had your work. We do a great job of getting your work out to a lot of museums. We do a lousy job of letting you know where all your work is. But we've had it in a number of shows, and thank you for accepting this award this year and being the first one. I appreciate all the work the committee did, because there were a number of important artists, but you stood out. And in honor of that, we had something special made for you. And you were just talking to Sid Felsen, your old friend, about, I guess, going through boxes and cleaning up and moving or something. And we thought about, you know, all those plastic things that you get from the fulfillment catalogs, and what does an artist like you need when you have everything, but there's something you don't have. So this was done by an artist, Thurman Statham. My mother, who had her gallery, had Dale Chihuly's first exhibition, so we're large collectors of glass. And one of my friends, Thurman Statham, why don't you come up for 1 second and talk for 30 seconds about what you do here. And this is...
Thank you. I think blue is the color of her work, and I just was in researching who she is, and I just was overtaken by her life, being in a refugee camp, and just all the experience she had. So I'm greatly honored to be able to make something like this for her. So thank you. Okay.
And Thurman has worked throughout the country, huge installations, and the latest one you did was at Thurman, the latest installation was at the University of Nebraska.
Nebraska and Lincoln.
And Lincoln. How big is it? It's 30?
30, this wall times 2.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for doing this work for us. Anyway, we'll get on with the questions by Samantha. And again, thank you so much. You've just been a role model for lots of artists and lots of us collectors. They're lucky enough to have your work. Okay. Thank you all.
Here comes Leslie to introduce us. Pardon? Here comes Leslie to just introduce. Sorry, everyone, you have one more set of introductory remarks. I'll try to be brief, though, okay? First of all, thank you, Jordan, for your support of this award. You are a true print advocate, and I, along with many others here, are very grateful for all that you do. And I am here today. I am Leslie Jones, Curator of Prints and Drawings at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. I am here as a representative of this year's selection committee for the 3rd annual Jordan Schnitzer Award for Excellence in Printmaking. The committee included myself, along with art historian, essayist, and independent curator Susan Tallman, and Jennifer Farrell, curator of prints at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. See, our Susan, is Susan here? Susan? I'm sure you all know Susan by now. And if Jennifer's here, anyway, it was, we just on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank the IFPDA and Director Jenny Gibbs for putting your trust in us and express what an honor it was to be part of the committee. Walking through the fair, it is clear that there are many wonderful prints being made by contemporary artists. But in our intensive Zoom deliberation, one name kept coming up, Vija Celmins. For more than 40 years, she has dazzled us with her work in print, and we are so pleased she has accepted the award and agreed to be here with us today in person at the Print Fair. Joining her in conversation is Samantha Rippner, whose curatorial foresight was responsible for the 2002 retrospective of Celmins prints held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's been 20 years, Samantha. You haven't aged a bit. You either, Vija. Anyway, it's hard to believe. And I now have the pleasure of introducing them both to you. Samantha Rippner is the Associate Director of the Nieman Center for Print Studies, a nonprofit print shop located in the School of Arts at Columbia University. As an independent curator, she co-curated the exhibition Pulled in Brooklyn for the International Print Center in New York in 2019, and organized Word as Image, highlights from the Marmor Collection for the Cantor Center for Visual Arts at Stanford University in 2015. From 1999 to 2014, Rippner worked as a curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, organizing and contributing to a number of exhibitions, including The Prints of Vija Celmins, Rhythms of Modern Life, British Prints from 1904 to 1939, and Picasso in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And now I'd like to introduce Vija, who has long been admired for her meticulous renderings of natural imagery, including ocean waves, desert floors, and night skies. Her paintings, sculptures, drawings, and prints depict scenes that are too vast or mercurial to be fixed in the mind's eye. She first became interested in representing the visible world during the early 1960s when she began to paint the objects in her Los Angeles studio, a lamp, a hot plate, a heater, and other fixtures of everyday life, before then turning her attention to photographs found in magazines and history books. By the end of the 1960s, when she first developed her all-over compositions of waves, rocks, and celestial bodies, she had set aside paint on canvas in favor of graphite on paper. When she began painting again in the 1980s, drawing and printmaking remained central to her art. Regarding her commitment to the material aspects of her process, Celmins has said, quote, "I believe if there is any meaning in art, it resides in the physical presence of a work." Vija was born in Riga, Latvia, and immigrated to the United States with her family in the late 1940s. She studied at the John Herron School of Art in Indiana and at Yale University before moving to Los Angeles in 1962 to pursue a master's degree at UCLA. Celmins remained in Los Angeles until 1981 when she moved to New York, where she currently lives and works. In 1992, the Institute of Contemporary Art in Philadelphia organized the first retrospective of her work. Since then, she has had one-person exhibitions at numerous museums, including the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Latvian National Museum of Art, the Kunstmuseum Basel, the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and the Menil Collection in Houston. She was inducted into the American Academy of Arts and Letters in 1996 and received a MacArthur Fellowship in 1997. And in 2022, the Jordan Schnitzer Award for Excellence in Printmaking. Thank you both for being here today. We're all in for a real treat. So I'll turn it over to you, Samantha.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No. Yes.
Hi, Vija.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here with you today.
I know, I haven't seen you so long.
I know, it's been a really
When did
long
we have
time.
that show?
So as Leslie said, the show is exactly 20 years old. I pulled out the catalog, and it opened 2 weeks ago today.
Oh, my goodness.
So it seems timely that you're given this print award just now. And in that time,
I've done a lot more prints.
well, that's it. Since then, you've continued to rethink and redescribe, a word that you use, your images, the night sky, the ocean surface, the spider's web, in almost every print medium. So what role has printmaking played in your work?
Pardon?
What role?
I was thinking about this.
What role has printmaking played in your work?
I don't know what role it has played. It has been a relief from painting, I guess. It has been, I don't know. I mean, I usually work alone all the time in the studio, and it's a way of working with other people who have incredible skills. And I sort of fell into it because I think I had a teacher back in maybe, 60 years ago, as Gero Antresian, who I think was instrumental in starting, what's the print thing that he started?
At Tamarind.
Yeah, Tamarind, right.
He was working at Tamarind.
And he was a lithographer, and I gave it a try because I liked him, but I didn't really get into it. So,
And then also Rico.
pardon?
Also, didn't you study etching with another teacher at Heron,
John Paul Jones?
John Paul Jones?
Right.
That's right.
I wouldn't say study. John Paul Jones was an etcher. And Gero Antresian and Tamarind was like litho shop.
Right.
And I didn't do too much litho, but then when, I don't know how I started. I think I started with Jean Mallant, who had a press. Where is he?
I just pulled up this image. Can you see it?
Oh, I barely.
There. So,
You know, we can barely see that, right?
Yeah. So that's your.
So I had already left. One of the reasons that I worked with a single image, I had sort of left composing things inside an area, and I just animated the whole area so that in the work, and no longer I had little things that were broken up, so you would have a kind of an eye, you know, a kind of a movement in the work, but the work was very singular. So I did some images because I was in California. I was doing some images that I had never even thought of, like living by the ocean. I began to think that this was an image I could use, and then I started going out in the desert, and I liked, you know, these were great experiences for me, coming from, you know, Europe and being in Indiana, and I had never, one of the things I liked about the desert especially was that you could look so far, you know, and you could look, and then you could look very, very close and look so very far. And I sort of like that about the work too, that it projects really far because it has no interior things, most of it. I think you probably have some. And then when you come up to it, you begin to see other aspects of it, like perhaps a little bit how it's made, and the vision changes. But I'm always very aware of those two things, that the distance invites you in, and when the image is in front of you, it tends to keep you out. You know, it's not an image that you can really enter. There are no roads in there. But you begin to identify with the surface, and I like those two things coming: somebody inviting you to the work, and then keeping you out and keeping you, relating to the work in,
Well,
I don't know,
well, you
say something.
Yeah, no, you. Okay, here we go. I mean, you encapsulate these enormous senses of space, and so you're encouraging by sort of shrinking them
Well,
down.
and the thing was, I thought of these words that I'm saying now because I had to say them over my life, I mean, this image is from what year?
1971.
71, and how many years is that? That's 50, like 4 years,
Right.
53, 52 years. I mean, can you imagine?
But this vast space is a space that obviously intrigued you. I know you would take walks in the desert. You would take walks by the ocean.
Yeah, but
and-
I don't know how the images come into your work. It isn't like I'm going to say, I'm taking a walk in the desert and I'm going to do this and this. These things like seep in your head, and when you begin to work, I don't know. I mean, I'm a person who really likes to be extremely thorough and always checking on the kind of space that I'm making in the painting or the print. So anyway, these were lithographs
Yeah, and
that I did with Jean Mallant, and who asked me to do some lithographs. I had already done one with Tamarind, a sort of an ocean surface.
Your very first one was an ocean.
And I did a whole set, and then I had to face my painting, so I sort of dropped working on prints
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
And I was not that happy with the lithographs because the lithographs were so, what was it? They were so, you don't really see how they're made, I mean, it looks almost like a drawing or something. And I liked, well, when I got going, when Gemini asked me to do some prints, and they had done some great prints, of course. People that were quite influential just because they were so smart and so like Jasper, Johns, and who I particularly really liked, and who I met at that time, and who, has been a great inspiration, although, of course, I don't do anything like he does. But what I liked about the etching, which I realized right away.
Should we, before we jump to, I was going to switch to the Gemini.
Oh, I have to
but
let
before
you talk a little bit?
Oh yeah, before we jump ahead, I just wanted to finish off about this work and the notion of you exploring the surface and liking the all-over quality of whether it be the desert floor, whether it be the ocean, whether it be the night sky, and using the image really as a composition.
Well, I stopped the image. It's hard to talk about it. I stopped the image in certain places. I try to make it so you don't leave the painting. It's not really slipping off, so that it remains a surface and remains held in the proportion. I mean, there's a lot of other things that go on. It's It's not just like cut out, you know.
Right.
I try to make it stay where it is with subtle kind of manipulation so that it doesn't look like a piece of something cut out. I don't think you can really see that on
Yeah,
this.
no. The borders here
poor
are small,
slide.
but the paper and the printmaking, when you make prints, is really essential, how the image sits on the paper. I know
I'm
that's something
always
you think
thinking of proportion, how it sits in a room, because, you know, the art is really like, you have to experience it. You have to walk up to it. It changes. You meet it. You know, it's an experience, something you have to have with you, not on your cell phone or anything, but alive,
Yeah.
you know.
And did you take to lithography easily since it was drawing directly on the stone and you had been
I
a
like the
drawer?
stones. Actually, what I liked about lithography were the stones, if you want to know
Yeah.
the truth. Great stones, you
Right.
know. I don't think they use stones anymore,
Very,
right?
very few shops use stones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like the stones a lot.
Well, this image, as you said, was made with Jean Malland and Cirrus Editions and the galleries here, and they actually have the portfolio that you made of the 4 images, the night sky, the clouds, the ocean surface, and the desert
Amazing.
floor,
So
and they're on
long
view.
ago.
So everyone should go look at them because until you see them in person, it's a completely
All
different
right, so
experience.
then,
So let's forward ahead. Now let's jump
when
to
Gemini asked me to do, you can't really see that, you guys. When Gemini asked me to come, I thought, oh, so great. And of course, I gravitated. I think they only had a small section that dealt with etchings, and not too many had been done. But I wanted to try etchings. And I had tried some at UCLA with John Paul Jones, making many. And what I liked is, you know, I like to do a lot of physical labor. That's the key. I like the digging in. I like the physical labor of like building an image. And so I had like this little box full of images because I don't pay any attention really to photography. It's like photographs and images are everywhere. And now they're coming into my house to get me. And they're so, you know, but these images are different because
Yeah.
they're built and they're in real space, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean,
so I started like just trying different, what do you call it? Different ways of making things, you know. So I started sticking them together. It was just, I would put them on the wall and take a look at them. I would ask the printer, who's Doris Simlink, was a fantastic printer at Gemini, really fantastic printer.
and that
I've
relationship.
worked with her for a long
yeah,
time.
that's really one of your closest collaborators in terms of your printmaking.
Well, she was a
Many years, yeah.
terrific printer, and we, you know, you have to get on the same wavelength with a printer because they do, you know, the other job of printing. And you know, you can't have a print without the printer.
Yeah.
And I never really learned how to print anything too
Well,
much.
Oh, but you did. I mean, we were talking last night, and we were sort of chatting about, you know, old prints that were made long ago, and you said, "Did artisans make those
You
prints?"
know, but what
and
I
you said,
did-
you said, "Oh, I could never do that. The making is essential to me. I have to be in there. I have to be making the print."
Well, I can make the print, but I cannot do the printing,
Right.
believe me.
Right.
I am not a printer.
Right. Well, so
So-
how did you and Doris come together to
We
decide?
met at Gemini. That's
Right, but
how
to
we
decide
met, because
on-
she printed everything at Gemini.
Right, but to decide on which process to use, because you were using
I just-
mezzotint, which is something
Well,
that
I
you...
was not totally stupid. You know, I knew about mezzotint and different. I had a little tools, little needles and things.
Did you do
I
tests
I
just
tried.
before
I don't
you
know
settled
what I
on
tried
it?
first. I think I tried. What do you call it when you just have the needle? You know.
Etching or dry
No,
point?
no.
Dry point.
Dry point, right. So I started this little ocean dry point. It just went on, and I liked it. You know, I liked the resistance, you know, that the plate gives with the tool. It resists you. So I like it. You know, I have to go in there and put myself in there. It makes different things.
So it's really
So
the
she
physicality.
suggested a few other things, and then I had all these images, and I began to put them together. I don't know what else. You know, let's see another
Yeah,
one.
that's the
'cause we
Jupiter
don't
moon.
Really.
There's
And
strata.
what is that?
Strata.
Oh, is that
Strata.
strata? So we had these little plates because it was very difficult to get a big plate. You know, you guys who are printmakers know all this stuff. And, you know, copper plates. And we had little plates. And this is a collection of small plates that have been pushed together. And then I think I have these lines on there, right? I
So the
can't-
grid, when it was printed,
So
initially the
print
grid
was, like,
doesn't come
put
through.
together and had like, I don't know.
25
I called
plates
it strata layers. You
on
know,
the
you have
larger
to
aluminum plate.
put some kind of name on things. I'm not really into naming things. But, okay.
So talk a little bit about the grid. So the grid sort of
So the grid
explains
was
the
already
making.
on there, you see? So then I made another grid. I'm a person who likes to cover every nuance of my surface, you know. I don't use it as an image that's on a background. I use the whole thing. The background and the image are together, always talking to each other.
Right. And the grid reasserts the surface. It's some sort of
Well,
order and
the
structure
grid just,
against
you know,
the
I mean,
randomness of-
the grid was hilarious because there was already a grid on there because it was made out of small
Right.
things, you know.
But I
so
thought that
I
you
kind of
drew
said
over.
it again.
Yeah.
Like in case you didn't get it, there's a grid, you know.
And it also kind of points to how you work with your painting, right? Don't you take
Well, I
your
like
source
to-
and grid out your
No, I
source
don't.
image?
Sometimes I grid it out, but sometimes I don't. But I like to think in my work that I've been everywhere. You know, I've been here, I've been there, I've been there. I have the whole thing is a strong surface that, you know, invites you to it and kind of keeps you out.
Right.
You know, so.
Right.
What
let's see
else
that.
do you want to say? Oh,
So that's a
then,
pretty great
You know,
print.
I started putting them together because I don't like to compose. I don't know whether you can call these compositions, but I did a set of four images that
Can-
were like these fetishy images that I had somehow gravitated toward. And this is just a hello Duchamp image.
So what is it about?
You know,
what is it about that
this is-
Duchamp's object, the
Oh,
rotary
I
glass
don't
plates
know.
that appeal to you? Because there is
I
a
don't know.
commonality.
You know, because
between the images.
Duchamp gave up the two-dimensional plane, you know, because maybe he couldn't handle it. I don't know, but he could handle other things really well. He was a wonderful artist, of course, maybe too influential, but really, you know, I wish I had met him. Actually, I could have met him, but I was too young and something, shy. Anyway, so I always liked this little device, you know.
Which you read.
So then when I got through with these four images, and I had a little airplane falling in another, I did four images because I was trying out different things at Gemini. So what I did, I think, on that, and different techniques, I think I drew this
Right.
from a catalog. I drew it on paper,
Yes.
You probably
Yes,
know how
that's it.
things are made.
No, but you did. You
I
drew
can't
it.
remember
and so
because I
you-
haven't done anything like that for a long time.
I know that you really loved the reproduction, which was from a magazine, and you loved all the shades of gray in it. And so you redrew it.
I redrew it, and then they
And then,
put
so
it,
that's one plate, and then the night sky is a second plate, and then some of the other images have the falling plane.
Right.
And so you play
and
around
then
with
I
different
thought,
compositions.
you know, you have to name things, I guess, if you're going to put them out somewhere. And I thought it was like concentric bearings, things that were falling, moving.
So-
All of the images have the possibility of moving.
Right. So that Duchamp image, those glass wheels
Yeah.
spin, and
I've
they're
never
very
really
optical.
seen that in real
Yeah.
life. I'd love to see it,
Yeah.
actually.
So the idea of sort of spinning and movement connects sort of the spinning stars,
I know,
the
but
spinning
you know,
plates.
the
Is
image,
that-
yeah, it's a kind of a playful
right. loose.
combination. There's no big point to it.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, in terms of combining the plates or using multi-plates, did that come out of the drawings where you were putting
Well, I
different
had
images
so
next
many
to one
little
another?
images because I wanted to try different things. So I stuck them together. And I called Doris and I said, what does this look like? She said, I'll try it. And then she tried it. We tried various ways. And I accepted it, you know.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask about the mezzotint process, so that we just saw in Strata. Is there anything from printmaking that then went into or sort of would affect some of your drawings? I'm sort of thinking about the charcoal drawings. It's nice for us, all of us who work on prints, to hear actually prints having an effect on an artist, you know, something else in an
I
artist's
don't
practice.
know. Look at another image.
Yeah.
Do we have something else in there?
So I guess that's a no.
Hurry up. Oh, well, that I think is a woodcut.
Yeah, that's a woodcut. So in 1990,
Oh, I tried a
Leslie
woodcut.
Miller.
When I came to New York, I met Leslie Miller at Grenfell Press, and she got me a piece of wood. I don't know how I met her, through friends. And I tried a woodcut, and total nightmare, believe me.
Why don't you
Very,
tell the
very
story?
difficult.
Tell the story
and
behind
very
this.
amateur. It's only that it's repetitive that it somehow works from a certain angle, because it was very, very difficult, very hard wood. I can't even remember what it was. And I had these tools, which I did not know how to use. And I was digging away, you know, and I came up with this really kind of great surface. It's like a rock,
Yeah,
right?
It's very tight. Yeah. that's
Very,
true.
very. Did I give you guys at the Met
Yes,
this?
and well, so you have to say, how long had you been working on this block?
I
and
don't
what,
know,
And then
maybe a
what
couple of
happened?
years on and off.
What happened to the block, Vija?
Pardon?
What happened to the block after you had worked it for 40 hours?
Didn't I give you a block?
Yes, and the block broke.
You're kidding.
remember,
You broke the block?
I cannot take any, that is not me.
How did it break? I
You
didn't
were
know.
working on it. You remember the story.
Oh, no,
Leslie
but I don't
was
think it
pulling-
was this
It
block,
was
was
because
it?
I have I don't have it, but the Met has the block.
Right.
With this incredible brace that Leslie devised to keep the block together so that you could finish and it could be printed. She was really
She didn't
worried when
have
it
a kind
cracked.
of ice on it or something?
No ice, just the brace. So, but
Anyway.
after 40 hours of mark making,
See, so doing an image this complicated on wood when you have never done anything before was like some masochistic move that I thought might leave something in the work that might be worth something, but, you know, that's sort of mystical
Yeah.
thinking, isn't it?
well, this is definitely of all the woodcuts you made at that time. This is
The
you know,
most ambitious.
The
I didn't make
culmination
a lot of
all
woodcuts
yeah.
because it was just too difficult.
Yeah, some of the smaller ones and things that you,
Yeah, I made
Yeah.
some smaller ones,
a
but
really beautiful night sky on that Kozu Gampi paper.
well,
with
you know,
Leslie.
it's softer than the metal,
Yeah.
but it's it was like a period of intense attention. Means I was alive,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have this bizarre print.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so bizarre. It's quite kind of whatever.
No, I mean, I read somewhere that you said about the surfaces of your work that they're a moment of consciousness. And I really
That's
love that.
true.
And I think for this work in particular, where there were hours and
Well,
hours
actually,
spent on it.
when you said that, it is true. It's like not just a moment of consciousness, but several years of consciousness, of getting it out of myself to be conscious enough to try to solidify this image in another life, you know. I mean, we got water right out there, but it's nothing to do with, you know, the print.
Yeah.
You have some more?
I do. We have some more.
Oh, yeah. This is an image I did later, maybe,
Yeah.
what,
2009.
40 years ago,
2000
35 years ago?
Oh, no. This is 2009. This is Web 5.
Oh, then it's,
Another
oh,
mezzotint.
yeah. Then I started doing some mezzotints because somebody suggested it. And that's a very difficult and kind of wonderful thing. And this, you know, it starts out black and you have to make it gray. And I had done a few spider webs because I had this thought that I was like the spider making things. And I did a few, and then I found that the image was so exciting for people that I had to drop it. I don't like things that, you know, I don't ever do human beings or anything. I find them too difficult to make into art because they have such psychological, you know, references that I like you to just look at the surface of the work and consider the work wherever you're looking at it and find your relationship to it without having to think, well, who's that a picture of, you know, or something like that. So I don't use those kind of images. This is a kind of an emotional image, and it was so hard to get that black gray.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who makes mezzotints, to get that quality is pretty remarkable. They
Okay, so what
understand.
I did then, Doris was, because I had Doris working, because we had built a relationship that I didn't want to break, Doris and her husband, and they set up their own press. So she got me a pretty big plate, and it was a real adventure. I would send it out. We must have sent things back. She was in California. I was here. We sent it back and forth with nuances because it's sort of hard to see.
Yeah.
You know, when you're working, whether you have to have a print of it. So it was a very, probably the hardest thing I've ever done beside maybe that woodcut too. So, you know, it's one of the, oh, okay. See, I think there's a little bit more
Yeah, there's more.
on there.
Via, do you
'Cause
want to?
don't we have it?
Oh, yeah. Let's go through. So
Oh,
this
and
one.
this is a complicated thing.
Also, 2009, Amérique, which is really an anomaly in a way in sort of your printed work. Can you talk a little bit about where
Okay,
the print
so-
comes
so
in
in
terms of
my
the other
own-
work that
in
you
my,
were making?
In my, I was going to say real work, you know, in the work where I'm not printing something, which is, I haven't printed that much, really. In my own work, every now and then, I do an object just for the relief of not having to deal with the two-dimensional plane, which is quite a problem, I always think. And so this is actually a print I saw in a store when I was trying to find furniture for my little house out in Sag Harbor. And I reproduced, it's actually an object.
Because it comes framed, and
It
the
comes
frame
framed,
is
so
handmade.
I
so-
did the frame here and the background. I had the frame exactly like the thing. I don't think people realize, it's not really it's an object.
Right, it's
A
sort of
found
straddles,
object
yeah.
that has been remade.
So when you saw it in the shop, it had a frame on it as well, or did you create
Yeah,
the,
no,
yeah,
it was
the whole
exactly
thing,
like
yeah.
I found it, yes,
Yeah,
of
so
course.
it sort of straddles this
Right.
object print
Right.
kind of,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
wait.
great.
We can't see that, any
Yeah.
of that. I can't even see it.
That's-
What is that?
It's, so these are, I think, these are, the last 3 prints are from your most recent prints with Doris from 2016, and that's Dark Sky 4, a mezzotint, and then that's Dark Sky 5.
Wow, I can't even see. And
And
then
I think,
what?
and you did 5 of them, 5 dark skies, all
Because I
with
had
different
the reason I did
shades.
those is because I had been painting these paintings, these sort of very dark paintings that are painted over and over and over and over until they're like dark skies, but really barriers sort of against you going out into the sky. I don't know. You
But
know,
they're
when
also
you talk
all
like
different-
this, you sound a little bit like an idiot. But,
No, but one
I
next-
think that people that make art kind of understand all these things
But in-
because everybody has to face something.
I mean, if we had all of them one next to another, they're all different shades of black
Yeah,
and gray, like a
yeah.
scale, gray scale.
And they're mezzotints, but they were not as difficult because they're not so gray.
Yeah.
But they were, you know,
Is mezzotint one of your favorite
no,
process? No.
not anymore.
Well, the
I'm
reason
too
I
old.
ask is because we'll end with these 2. This is also from 2016, an ocean surface dry point, which you've done the ocean surface and dry
Okay, so
point a
this
couple
is an
times.
image. If anybody saw my show, I had like 6 or 7 paintings. How many were there?
Yeah, I
6
just,
or
yeah,
7.
7.
I see. Where I repeated an image that I had done back in 20 years ago to show how your own redoing an image changes the emotional tone of the image and so forth. So then I did this dry point. And you could see this is like I'm a much older person, and I let things be a little softer, I guess. And I let the image show a little bit. And then I did another one
Yep.
that is
So
a
that's the
mezzo-
dry point, and that's the mezzotint. And it's
Yeah,
the,
we
so the
can't
image
see a
is
thing on that.
the image is the same, but the process you use is
Right.
different, and you get a
And I'm
wholly
through
different.
with that image.
Yeah, but it's amazing that by switching up the process, which is something that you do, you get a completely new image. Both have their own sort of emotional tenor, a little bit, their own
That's
emotional
right.
tone, all
That's
based
right.
on the process and the making.
Right. And they each have a different light and a different, you know, I don't know. When did I do this?
2016.
So I don't think I've done anything since
No, this
then,
is
have I?
your last.
Thank goodness.
This
Yeah.
is your last.
Yeah.
No more prints coming down
So,
the pipe.
you know, this was always like a different thing than painting, because painting is really difficult because it's, you know, wet. You have to make zillions of different, but now I'm painting, I want you to know. And I'm not
Yeah.
doing mezzotint.
Yeah,
Although I guess I have one I started,
yeah.
but
So if mezzotint is such a tough process, why do you keep going back to it?
pardon?
I said, if mezzotint is so tough and you seem very reluctant about
I think
it.
I like the
think-
darkness, you know. I like the darkness.
And you
maybe I don't like it anymore, but maybe I do.
well, maybe you like the difficulty of it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I
the
feel like,
difficulty to get you to do something
yeah,
that you may not really want to do, maybe,
Right.
or something.
I mean, it's that idea that sort of out of limitation comes invention, right? And so by maybe not just limiting your subject matter, but also the process that
Well,
you do, you're
because
forced
I don't do a lot of, I leave my experience of making, that is what you look at, So that's one of the only meanings, of the work. It's not like I'm telling a story about my family or no stories, no. It's just image that's been made,
Right. And I think
And every time, it's of course a different image. I did that whole series of the same image, and surprisingly, very different tones and different feelings to the. I don't know if anybody saw the Met show, but when you walked in the Met, the oceans were in the front in a big wall, and the first one was from '86, and I think 1986. This woman gave it back to me instead of putting it on auction, thank goodness. And I was so happy to get it back for some reason, because I'd had, some trouble with that painting. And then I decided to see if I could do it again. And then I think the last one was about 2000 something. And shows, I don't know what it shows. I think you kind of get a sense of things when you look at work, and maybe you have a sense of things now about how I talk about it. It's I don't know. It's a life.
Yeah, it's a life, and I think to just end. Last night when we were chatting, you said, the art for me is in the making, and I think
Right.
I think that comes through, and through the making comes all of the other things that we feel when we stand in front of your work, that you articulate.
Well, to transfer it into words gives it another dimension. I'm not sure that my transfer in the words is really what it is, because if you were experience the work, it's really wordless,
Right.
So it gives you maybe a way of coming up to it, but it's not really like an answer to something.
Right. Sometimes words don't do it justice either.
Well, I
So-
don't know.
Anyway,
okay,
well, thank
okay.
you, Vija. It was wonderful to have you, and congratulations
Thanks.
on your award.
Okay.
Do you want to
Very
take?
nice.
At your home at Sag Harbor, what art is on your walls? What art do you live with?
I haven't got it up yet. I'm still looking for the couch.
I asked the question at
I
her home
haven't-
in Sag Harbor.
I have some things that I think that Doris had, I don't know. I don't really own a lot of work, and I haven't got a lot of it up either. There's some little gifts people have given me, and there's not a whole, I'm still building my studio out there. Not building it, but putting it into working order. And I've been painting, so I don't have a whole lot. I actually have somebody you probably don't know, a guy named Chaz Gerbedian, who's an Armenian friend of mine from California, that I really cared for him as a person. He was a wonderful friend, and he made some works of Doris's that I asked her for them, and I have one of those up that is a really nice work. And I have a couple of little Johnses, and but I think they're still sitting on the floor. You know, you have to figure out where to put everything. I need an upholsterer, you guys. You know. Oh, are we asking questions?
Hi, I have two questions, please. The first one would be, you said that you had trouble with the work that came back to you. So what does that mean? When you have trouble?
I can't hear what she's saying.
Can you say it again?
The first question would be, you just mentioned that you had trouble with the work that came back to you. Trouble, what does that mean?
Painting from 1986 that was in the Met show that you said was returned to you by a collector instead of going to auction. You said that you had trouble with it. I think you were troubled by the fact that you thought she might sell it? Or were you
No,
troubled
no,
with the
I
nature
was
of it?
happy that she didn't sell it, and I was so happy to get it. Are you talking about the painting that was
Yeah.
returned?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I got it that you were happy to get it returned, but you said that you had, with the painting, there was something with you, or maybe I misunderstood it, that you had trouble with the work itself.
That
Were
one?
you dissatisfied or troubled by the work
Exactly.
I was not troubled. I wanted to see if I could do it again 20 years later.
Right.
Because it was a very complicated image that I actually found in National Geographic, and it had hippos in it. I had to remove those, swimming in this water, and the image had a kind of feeling for me. So I tried it again to see if I could make the image again. And then I tried it again maybe 6 months later. It was just an idea. I don't have a lot of ideas. Okay, what else?
Okay. Then the other question would be, the coming year, there's going to be an exhibition in Hamburg. We're going to be paired with Gerhard Richter. Do you like that?
What did
To be shown?
I have
She said-
hearing
oh, yeah.
aids. So.
She said that there's an upcoming show in Hamburg where your work is going to be paired with Richter. And how do you feel
How
about
did
that?
you know that?
Well, I know. It's at Kunsthalle in Hamburg.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be compared with Richter.
No. But what's your relationship with Gerhard Richter? Do you
Well,
like being with?
I think one of the things about that show with Richter is that we had some very common themes. Being born in World War II and having to go through it in our childhood, I'm sure left some debris there in your psychology. And I think he sort of relived some of the same imagery. In fact, he had some of the same clippings that I had had. It was not easy to get those clippings from World War II because there weren't that many books about anything. And I had hunted them down for reasons also, I'm not sure. And then, I don't know, we did some kind of interesting things that were sort of similar, except, you know, I was so slow and he was so darn fast. I mean, he must have 5,000 works, and I have maybe 200, if that many. So, and I did meet him, and you know, I don't know, I think it was the idea of the museum that they came and they asked him whether he would agree with it. And I just thought it was a very light thing. I don't think there's any, well, in fact, I'm not exactly sure what will be in the show. But I don't think it's a big comparison. It's kind of a slight comparison of people that used imagery, and he was fast as could be, and I was slow, and I don't know. We'll see what comes out of the show. Okay.